The National Desk, America's News, now.
Francine gets downgraded, but not before leaving a path of destruction in Louisiana. How many are left in the dark as recovery begins? Schools on edge, the latest in a string of threats across the country since a Georgia teen opened fire at his school. And history made. 4 civilians on a daring SpaceX mission complete the first commercial spacewalk. Inside the riveting moments and the first words from the billionaire on board upon his first view of Earth. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David. Tracking Francine, the now tropical depression over northern Mississippi, heading right now towards Missouri. We are following heavy rainfall with risks of flash flooding to the lower Mississippi and Tennessee valleys. Flash flooding also a possibility this evening over portions of Alabama, the Florida Panhandle, as well as parts of Georgia and Tennessee into tomorrow. And while elevated water levels and high surf have subsided, almost 300,000 customers right now remain without power in Louisiana in Francine's aftermath, touching down there as a Category 2 hurricane. The silver lining tonight, no deaths reported. Governor Jeff Landry thanking residents for heeding safety warnings. Right now, Francine continues its trek north. We will continue to track it for you all evening long, both on air and online at thenationaldesk.com. Meantime, first responders in Southern California still battling 3 major wildfires that started during an extreme heat wave, forcing tens of thousands of people to evacuate. The bridge fire in the Angeles National Forest is over 50,000 acres and still 0% contained. It's destroyed dozens of homes. The airport fire in Trabuco Canyon is around 23,000 acres and 5% contained. And the line fire in San Bernardino County is around 37,000 acres and 18% contained. Firefighters say the cooler and more humid weather we're seeing right now is helping to tame the flames. Also tonight, a Kentucky manhunt intensifies as law enforcement doubles down efforts to find Joseph Couch. That's the man police believe shot and wounded 5 drivers as he struck random vehicles from a cliffside before fleeing into the woods. The grueling search, now in its 6th day, has employed helicopters, drones, and special response teams across thousands of acres of jungle. Tonight, Governor Andy Beshear says they still believe that Couch is armed and dangerous and hiding in that vast forest. 4 of the 5 victims have now been released from the hospital, and the 5th is also expected to survive. 12 students have been hospitalized after their school bus was struck tragically by another vehicle in northern Minnesota today. None of their injuries are seen as life-threatening. 20 children were on that bus when it was hit. The bus driver also taken to the hospital with unknown injuries. The driver of the vehicle that ran into the bus, causing it to flip over, was airlifted to the hospital with serious injuries. At least 2 St. Paul, Minnesota public schools closed today due to online threats towards the schools. Police described the threats as non-credible, but the schools closed out of an abundance of caution. In Pittsburgh, 1 elementary school was placed on emergency lockdown early this morning and then evacuated after reports of an unidentified male inside the school. And in Northern California, outside of San Francisco, a 14-year-old high school student arrested for making online threats against 2 schools in the area. The student has been booked in a local juvenile detention center. New tonight, North Dakota's abortion ban no longer in effect. Today, a state district judge struck down the law as unconstitutional because it was too vague. The 2022 law outlawed most abortions as a felony crime, but did allow exceptions for the sake of the mother's health or in cases of rape or incest, but only for the first 6 weeks of pregnancy. Following today's ruling, all abortions are legal until viability. Former President Donald Trump, he says he will not participate in another debate with Vice President Kamala Harris. In a post on Truth Social today, he wrote that he won Tuesday's debate and that was why Harris wanted a rematch. At the end of the post, he wrote in all caps that there will be no third debate. The presidential candidates are in critical swing states this week. Harris traveling across North Carolina today while Trump visits Arizona. Their economic plans are front and center, but as the National Desk's Atrel Nashar reports, there's still a lot we don't know about how they'd be paid for.
Vice President Harris and former President Trump are very aware of the fact that the economy will be top of mind for many Americans when they fill out their ballots.
I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy.
I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
Just hours before the candidates took the stage Tuesday, the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office released a report showing the U.S. borrowed $1.9 trillion over the past 11 months.
And yet, neither candidate has put forward a plan to actually reduce our deficit. In fact, under either candidate's agenda, the debt would keep rising unsustainably faster than the economy.
Addressing the debt isn't exactly a popular thing to run on because it would likely require unpopular decisions like raising taxes or cutting benefits. But if something isn't done, and soon, trust funds for Social Security, Medicare, and highways could be insolvent within the decade. In the 96-minute debate, there were only 2 mentions of anything related to the national debt. Both were made by Harris to attack Trump's costly proposals like raising tariffs.
What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit.
The national debt has absolutely skyrocketed over the past 15 years, though 2 recessions and a pandemic certainly didn't help things. In January of 2009, during the Great Recession, federal spending was $10.6 trillion in the red. By January of 2021, that number was up to $27.8 trillion. And as of Tuesday of this week, the national debt stood at $35.3 trillion. Now, whoever takes the Oval Office next will inherit this rising trajectory.
Even if the president signs no new laws into effect, we are going to see debt reach World War II levels by the end of their administration.
So you can see that's certainly a grim outlook that, absent action from Washington's current and future leaders, is all but guaranteed.
And Atra, addressing this issue would also require the future president, whoever that is, to work with Congress. So tell us a little bit more about what we're hearing when it comes to the down ballot races.
Right. Yeah, it's important to remember we're in a presidential election, but everything they want to do, for the most part, would require approval from Congress. And we're not really hearing it in any real way down ballot. Sometimes we'll hear a challenger, a congressional candidate, accuse an incumbent candidate of contributing to the ballooning debt, but that's usually it. Again, because the solutions to this problem can be tough for voters to swallow. But I will note, when Nikki Haley was running in the Republican presidential primary, she did say she would raise the retirement age for people currently in their 20s to help keep Social Security insolvent, though she's not a candidate anymore.
Well, time will tell, that's for sure. Atrel Nashar, live in Washington, D.C. for us. Thank you, as always.
Thanks.
NYPD Commissioner Edward Caban announcing his resignation today. This comes after the FBI seized Caban's phone as part of a federal investigation. Caban was appointed the commissioner of the NYPD in 2023. With this resignation, New York City Mayor Eric Adams has named former FBI official Tom Donlon as interim police commissioner. Union and Boeing reps have agreed to a new contract proposal earlier this week to avoid a strike on the condition the rank-and-file machinists accepted the deal. With the deadline 6 p.m. Pacific time tonight, it seems like they won't. Workers have been staging demonstrations all week long, calling on the offer to be rejected. The National Desk's Karina Vargas in Seattle with the latest.
Workers have been casting their vote on the tentative contract. Many that we spoke to say that this contract is just not enough, and they're willing to go on strike until their demands are met. 33,000 Boeing machinists could walk off the job soon if a contract deal isn't reached.
To vote to not accept the contract and vote yes to strike.
We caught up with workers as they casted their vote in Renton who are protesting the current contract deal.
Well, like everyone else, we're very disgruntled. The contract wage percent increase matched with inflation is very, very low.
Boeing's tentative deal includes a 25% pay raise that would increase with seniority, as well as lower health care costs, parental leave, and bigger contributions to workers' retirement plans. The machinists want a 40% wage hike and a return of the pension program, as well as keeping their annual bonus incentives.
The offer was not the best it could have been historically. I've been here for 37 years, and it's historically one of the worst contracts.
Machinists we spoke to say they're willing to fight for a better contract if it means bringing some financial security for generations to come.
Well, no one wants to go on strike because it costs everybody money. But we're all here to stand behind all of us to make sure that we all get a fair contract. I'm retiring in 4.5 years, but I'm here to strike if I have to for all the rest of the employees that are going to be here for the next 20 years.
Boeing CEO Kelly Ortberg sent a statement to workers that reads in part, quote, "I ask you not to sacrifice the opportunity to secure our future together. I know that we could get back on track, but a strike would put our shared recovery in jeopardy." If the tentative contract is not accepted by today's deadline, the 33,000 union workers could go on strike as early as midnight on Friday.
And coming up, history is made with the first commercial spacewalk, what the crew is hoping to learn while they are in orbit. And then a new look at the U.S. economy, latest on inflation and mortgage rates. And later, surprising advice for keeping your lawn as healthy as possible during the dry weather stretch. We are back in 90 seconds. Tonight, the first Americans have made history in a never-before-achieved milestone, the first commercial spacewalk. SpaceX mission control erupting in cheers the moment billionaire Jared Isaacman left the Dragon capsule and stepped where no civilian has gone before. Isaacman, who bankrolled the mission, saying this upon stepping out.
Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, Earth sure looks like a perfect world.
A perfect world indeed. Isaacman was joined by SpaceX engineer Sarah Gillis in doing the spacewalk, but all 4 crew members making history for flying to the highest orbital altitude that humans have reached since the final Apollo mission in 1972, 870 miles above the Earth's surface. The private astronauts entered space with a tether holding them to the spacecraft, something one former NASA astronaut says will likely reemerge in future commercial flight.
So it's kind of like a modern version of what was used back in the 60s, but a huge step, just being able to get out and move around, testing the viability of the suit.
The crew is also conducting nearly 40 scientific experiments, many of which aim to understand the human body's reaction to long space flights. Polaris Dawn is set to return to Earth on Saturday. In another sign of cooling inflation, wholesale price increases mostly declined last month. The producer price index dropped from 2.1% to 1.7% in terms of an annual increase. That index looks at inflation before it hits consumers. However, on a monthly basis, prices increased faster than they did in the month before. That could influence the size of the Fed's interest rate cut decided next week. And mortgage rates have dropped to their lowest in over a year and a half. Freddie Mac saying that today the average rate on a 30-year mortgage fell from 6.35% last week to 6.2% this week. And the city of Springfield, Ohio, is once again in the spotlight after a bomb threat to multiple facilities, including City Hall. City leaders there saying the threat came from someone who mentioned frustration with the city related to the current situation with Haitian immigrants. Here's the National Desk's Christine Frizzell.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats.
A viral moment from this week's presidential debate about an online conspiracy theory with no evidence to back it up. But those who live in Springfield say there are major issues related to the influx of migrants, local schools overwhelmed, not enough housing, and a healthcare system fighting to keep up.
Springfield's hospital and healthcare systems have seen a dramatic influx of new patients, increasing the need not only for healthcare, but also for translation services.
In Springfield, Ohio, as many as 15,000 have come from Haiti over the last 3 years, fleeing political violence and hunger, and enticed by a Biden administration program giving many temporary protected status, drawn to the region as word has spread.
I have a friend here who told me that I can get a job here. And I tell another friend and another friend tell another friend that that's the way we get here.
While there are indications the influx of migrants has also benefited Springfield's economy immensely, local leaders are begging for federal help. Similar situations in big cities like New York and Chicago, where local leaders have had to slash city budgets that provide services to residents to help care for migrants, as leaders from suburbs like Aurora, Colorado also sound alarm bells. Videos like this allegedly showing members of a violent Venezuelan gang terrorizing those who live in local apartment complexes.
And I think there's a possibility if we don't proactively get out in front of this, which I think we're already behind, we're going to see this gang spread faster across the country than we saw with MS-13.
Former President Donald Trump back in Arizona Thursday. His campaign says he went to highlight Kamala Harris's devastating border policies. Yet another example of how immigration is likely to remain a top issue between now and Election Day. I'm Christine Frizzell reporting.
Tonight, UN leaders accusing Israel of violating international humanitarian law, saying that 6 of its workers were among the 18 people reported killed by an airstrike on a school in Gaza that shelters 12,000 displaced Palestinians, mostly women and children. The Israeli military, meantime, said the strike targeted a Hamas control and command center inside the school, naming 9 men it said were Hamas militants killed, 3 of which it said were UNRWA staffers, though that has not been independently verified. The UNRWA school compound has been targeted by Israeli forces 5 times since Israel's military campaign in Gaza began, drawing international criticism. Harvey Weinstein is facing new charges. Prosecutors announcing a sealed indictment in a hearing today. It comes after a New York City grand jury heard new accusations from women against the disgraced former Hollywood producer. Weinstein will be arraigned once he gets better from heart problems that sent him to the hospital this week. A trial is set for November 12th. And September is Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. Medical reporter Liz Bonas sharing the story of one man who made it his mission to encourage men to ask a doctor about their own issue.
Hey there, everybody. Family members and friends of those who've struggled with prostate cancer are sharing a very personal journey with us today. They hope it will remind guys of the importance of early detection.
The kind of detection Steve Abbott always talked about as we followed his prostate cancer journey. Steve lost his battle just a few weeks ago, but not before he wrote this book, Survive in Advance, My Cancer Battle Fought One Laugh at a Time.
Don't worry, I'm still here. It's just I have a lot
to think about these days.
Richard Hunt, the owner here at Kentucky's Roebling Books, is the publisher of Steve's book. He told me it's a testament to Steve's mission of early detection for prostate cancer, one his wife Diana hopes will live on.
I intend to continue that because I'm a breast cancer survivor, so I know how much attention, media attention, women especially, keeping themselves informed about the chances of getting breast cancer. However, I don't see that in prostate cancer as much as I think we should.
There's a simple blood test Steve often talked about called a PSA, or prostate-specific antigen. Dr. Timothy Struve says it can help detect prostate cancer early.
We take a number of factors into consideration, but 4.0 tends to be the upper limit of normal.
Steve also worked with Ohio's Cincinnati Cancer Advisors, which provides free second opinions for anyone living with cancer.
What started as a second opinion pilot project has evolved into completely encompassing what the cancer patient needs, no matter where they are in their journey.
Which brings us back to why it was so important to Steve to publish Survive in Advance.
When you look at it and you read it, and I apologize, it's his voice.
One this team hopes will help you find your voice. To ask your own medical team about your own prostate cancer risk. It would be the best way we can all honor the life and laughter Steve brought to ours.
Proceeds from the book do go to Cancer Advisors. With your health news, I'm Liz Bonus reporting.
Liz, thank you. And coming up, residents of a Tennessee town are fed up with squatters in an abandoned school, what they want from city leaders. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter most to you. We're taking the pulse of America, and we begin in Maine, where a program is offering single moms a guaranteed monthly income.
I remember having the first paycheck.
Peace Mutesi has been there before, not sure what to prioritize after other assistance came to an end.
Trying to decide what to pay for childcare, transportation.
After conversations with leaders at the Quality Housing Coalition, they decided to do something using only private donations. They created the Project Home Trust Basic Income Pilot Program, which gave direct cash payments monthly to 20 single, low-income moms. Starting last June, participants used it to pay rent, daycare, or starting a business. The first group will continue to get support and resources, while more women start to receive their first payments later this month.
Once a lively elementary school, the building now sits as a graffiti-covered, boarded-up shell with shattered windows and old mattresses as locals watch people come and go throughout the day.
You hear a lot of banging and booming at nighttime up there, so don't know if that's because they're tearing the doors down or tearing the place down. I would like for the school to be boarded up and locked up and They've put chains and stuff on the gates, and the homeless people seem to tear the gates down.
Local attorney Ben Rabin says there's very specific rules as to what constitutes a code violation. And as far as breaking and entering, Rabin explains local government and law enforcement are limited in what they can do.
Extended periods of dry weather put stress on your grass and plants. There are things that you can do to help your lawn, starting with how you mow it.
I would not recommend cutting it short right now. Those blades of grass, they are already going to be burning, and getting them shorter, it's just going to get closer to that warm soil, that hot soil, and your chance of losing your grass is going to be that much higher.
The best thing for your grass is obviously water, but the time of day matters.
So when it comes to watering your lawn in these hot, dry stretches, we are going to recommend twice daily. That morning and evening every day is superb. If you do morning and evening every other day, that is great too, as long as there's a regular, consistent plan. Consistency is going to be the key.
And coming up, the people now being recognized as heroes for their actions during the mid-flight door plug blowout that happened earlier this year. Well, some uplifting news tonight. The pilot duo helming Alaska Flight 1282, the plane that had a door plug blowout mid-flight exposing passengers, will be honored with the 2023 Airline Pilots Association Superior Airmanship Award for their skill and professionalism during that crisis in which they safely landed 177 passengers. One of the pilots, First Officer Emily Wyprud, she spoke with CBS News for the first time today, and she recounted those terrifying moments, but made it clear that she and her captain were not the only heroes involved that day.
Same with the flight attendants. Same with all the personnel that was there to support us that day. And that should be celebrated.
Spoken like a true hero, and certainly a well-deserved honor. That does it for this edition of the National Desk. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful night.